In this lesson, students are solving a system of inequalities, and so in the warm-up I review with them how do you solve an equation, how do you solve an inequality, and talk about the rules of inequalities, that it changes the meaning if you multiply or divide by a negative, so you have to change the direction of the sign. And so when you have, we had x equals -2 for a solution for the first equation, and so how do you represent that on the number line? It's going to be a closed circle at -2. And then we have x equals 1. It's going to be a closed circle at 1. Looks like that number line moved over a little bit. And then when we solve the inequalities, you do start off solving them just like equations. Subtract 2 on both sides. And then you have -5x is less than 10. But then when you divide by -5 on both sides, it changes the meaning, so x would be greater than -2. And I show that with a simple example. When you have 2 is less than 3. It's the same way with equations. When you had 3 equals 3, if you change sides, swap sides, it's not going to change anything. When you have 2 less than 3 in an inequality, if you switch sides, put the 3 on the left and the 2 on the right, it changes the meaning. 3 won't be less than 2, now it's going to be greater than 2. The same thing when you divide by a negative. So when you start off with 2 is less than 3, if I divide by a -1 on both sides, now I have -2, which is greater than -3, so it changes the meaning, so you have to change the direction if you multiply or divide by a negative. And so how would you represent that on the number line? For number 3, x is greater than -2. You're going to have an open, so if we just put a 0 there and -2 would be here, it would be an open, looks ahead above the number line, so -2 is right here. It would be an open circle at -2, and you shade the direction the arrow is pointing because it's all the numbers that are greater than -2 but does not include -2. But you go all the way up to -2, and that's why you show the open circle. And then you solve the other one, subtract 5, and so x is less than or equal to 1, and it didn't change direction because you didn't multiply or divide by a negative. So you're just going to have a closed circle this time at +1. And you're going to shade to the left to show that it includes not only at +1, but the all the numbers less than 1. So what's the difference in the solutions to the equations compared to the same problem written as an inequality? Well, the inequality represents several solutions, and that's why we show the shading. Along with closed circles, we'll also include the solution.